Welcome to Mrs. Neller's notes for her double block algebra class. These are the notes for section 4.3 entitled Graphing Horizontal and Vertical Lines. And today we're going to graph horizontal and vertical lines. And what we talked about in the previous section of notes was the equation for the standard form of a line. And that is ax plus by equals c. And remember, the a and the b and the c, those are just all numbers. A has to be positive, and you can't have any fractions or decimals. Now, basically what we're going to do today is we're going to tweak that equation just a little bit to come up with our horizontal and our vertical lines. So if you substituted in the number 0 for a, then that whole ax term would go away. Because if you put 0 in the spot where the a is, let me rewrite that. You would have 0 times x, and 0 times x is just going to be 0. So that whole term is going to go away, and you end up with by equals c. Now, a better way to think of that is just y equals some number. Could be y equals 8, could be y equals negative 19, doesn't matter, y equals some number. And that's what the equation for a horizontal line is going to look like. And this is also called a constant function because it's just y equals a number. Now, if we take that ax plus by equals c format and we substitute in a 0 for b, we'll still have our ax, but we'll have 0 in the spot where the b is. So that will make the whole y term go away. So then you end up with a times x equals c. And a better way to think of that is just x equals some number. And again, it could be x equals 3, could be x equals negative 7, doesn't matter what the number is. But this is going to be the equation for a vertical line. Now, there's a little poem to help you remember this. Since the horizontal lines start with a y equals, the poem starts with why am I laid out when I slip and fall. When you slip and fall, you want to picture yourself like laying flat on the ground. You're horizontal. And the rest of the poem says, X marks the spot where I stand up straight and tall. And when you stand up straight and tall, it's like you're a vertical line. So that little poem can help you remember how to graph horizontal and vertical lines by looking at the X and the Y in front of the equation. So for example 1 here, we're going to start off easy, and we're just going to find 3 ordered pairs that are solutions to this equation. And this is just to make you think before we start to graph. Now, this first equation is y equals 4. If I want to be a solution to that equation, then whatever I plug in for x has to produce 4 for a y value. So I can have any number I want for the x's, but when I have my y value, it has to be 4. And if I graphed that line, y equals 4, we'll graph in a moment, but just for now, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's my line, y equals 4, and here's my x. So 1, 4 is right there, 2, 4 is right there, 3, 4 is right there. There's 3 points that are on that line, y equals 4. And then for part B, where it says x equals negative 6, this time it doesn't matter what I plug in for the y, but the x value in my ordered pair has to be a negative 6. So I can have negative 6, 1, negative 6, 2, and negative 6, 3. Now you can really pick any numbers you want for the y value. So if you don't want to pick 1, 2, 3, pick 0, 1, and 2. Or pick 10, 20, 30. Okay? Any number you want. But again, we'll get to graphing in a moment, but if we graph this one, x equals negative 6 would be right here. So I would be at negative 6. There's my y numbers. Negative 6, 1, negative 6, 2, and negative 6, 3. Those are the three ordered pairs that are going to be on that line. So that problem is just meant to get you thinking about what it means to be a solution to a horizontal and vertical line. For any horizontal line, the y values in the ordered pairs are all going to be the same. And for any vertical line, the x values in those ordered pairs are all going to be the same. Okay, now example 2 says to determine whether or not the ordered pair is a solution. So now they're going to give us an equation and an ordered pair. And we have to ask ourselves, is that ordered pair a solution to that equation? So it's taking what we did and going one step further. Now in example A, if y equals 1, that means the ordered pair that I'm given has to have a y value of 1. So in my ordered pair, I have an x and a y. My y is a 1, so yes, that ordered pair is going to be a solution to that equation. For part B, I have x equals negative 1. So that means in my ordered pair, my x value has to be a negative 1. Uh-oh, but it's not the x value that's a negative 1. It's the y value that's a negative 1. So no, that ordered pair is not going to be a solution. And in part C, I have x equals 7. So in my ordered pair, my x value has to be a 7. Oh, I'm really close. I have a negative 7, but it has to be a positive 7. So no, that ordered pair would not be a solution to that equation. And again, remember that that means if I graph that line, that ordered pair would not be on it. Okay, now for example 3, we're going to graph. So I know I drew a little rough graph earlier in example 1, but now we'll go through more of the specifics as to how you graph. So when you graph the line, remember that poem, why am I laid out when I slip and fall? X marks the spot where I stand up straight and tall. So for part A and part B, we have y equals. So that means these are going to be horizontal. Why am I laid out? So we're going to be going left and right. So I want to go to 3 on the y-axis, and then I'm going to draw my horizontal line through that point and across the y-axis. So for part B, I'm going to go to negative 2, and then I'm going to draw my horizontal line going through that point and across the y-axis. And then for part C, I have x equals. So remember, x marks the spot where I stand up straight and tall. So I'm going to go to 1 on the x-axis, and I'm going to draw a vertical line, a straight and tall line through that point and across the x-axis. So when it says x equals a number, you find that number on the x-axis and then you draw your vertical line. When it says y equals a number, you find that number on your y-axis and you draw the horizontal line. And sometimes students get confused because your axes, x and y, are kind of opposite of how you're drawing the line. Okay, the x-axis goes left and right. So sometimes students think that when they see the x line, they have to draw it going left or right. But really we want to find the spot on the x-axis and then draw the line through it, across it. We just want to touch that point one time. Remember, I want all the ordered pairs on this line to have 1 as their value for their x value in their ordered pair. So if I drew a line that was horizontal, that wouldn't be true. Okay, so you could think of it too that the line has to go opposite from the axis. So when you see y equals 3, here's my y-axis, so then my line has to go the opposite direction from the y-axis. But the best way to get good at this is just keep practicing it and practicing it and practicing it. Okay, now for example 4, this is our last example, and we're going to reverse the process here. They've given us graphs, and now they want us to write the equation for them. So I have one vertical line and one horizontal line. Part A here, this is a vertical line. It's going up or down. So I'm going to count where on the x-axis it's actually crossing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like it's crossing at -4. So x equals -4. It's going to be the equation for my vertical line. And then for part B, this is going to be my horizontal line. So this line is laid out. It's laying flat. So if you think of that poem, why am I laid out when I slip and fall? So I know it's going to start with y equals. And I've got to find the point that it crosses on the y-axis. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I went down 6, so it's going to be y equals -6. So these are meant to be very easy and very straightforward concepts, but students tend to mix things up with horizontal and vertical lines very easily. So make sure that you work on this homework set. Make sure you do these practice problems. If you need graph paper, make sure you've either taken some from the classroom or you find some online and print it off. And if you have any questions, come on in before school and see me.